Hey there, this is Dennis Anyone with Dennis Hensley. It's a podcast about making things up and making things happen. I love talking to creative people, especially creative people who take big risks, who take big swings. And today my guest is someone who is doing that. His name is Greg O'Connor. He is a composer and a singer-songwriter, and he's placed over 1,000 songs for TV and film, things like Mad TV and The Big Gay Sketch Show, which we both worked on at the same time. But he's approaching his music in a different way now. He is putting out his own songs. He's got an album coming out in October called The Place I've Never Been, but he's been releasing songs and videos for the last 5 or 6 months of songs leading up to the album. Really great videos, really cool songs. He's just a very talented musician, and the storytelling, I relate to it. The videos are cool. And so I wanted to talk to him about going for the artist thing, like at this point in his life, like deciding, you know what, I want to be front and center and sing my songs. So that's what we get into. Oh, and to give you an idea of the vibe of Greg's music, here is a little excerpt of one of my favorite songs that I've heard so far from the album, Bad Luck Love.
You had me at, hey, what's your star sign? Pisces and Geminis, they don't align, but I don't mind it. It's hard to find this. Pretend I'm a Scorpio, and maybe you'll buy it. I'll keep it a secret to make you believe it, and maybe just fake this for a while. I changed it to Cancer. I googled and asked her. That was the right answer. You looked up and smiled. When you look at the star signs, I hope you don't mind. The fortune teller's not on our side. All these predictions and mathematicians, looks like we're on opposite sides. So I'll just keep my mouth shut. I tell you the whole truth, but you might think it's bad luck, love.
But before we get to that, I want to remind you that this podcast, Dennis Anyone, is brought to you by me. I do it. I love it. I'm into it. But if you want to help cover my expenses, that's always helpful. There are 2 ways you can do that. You can go to DennisAnyone.net and contribute to my virtual tip jar. There's also a thing on there called Buy Me a Coffee, where for the price of a cup of coffee, you can say thanks and I enjoy the podcast. And I just bought a coffee by a listener named Chris G. Thank you, Chris. It made my morning to get that little note in my inbox. And so if you want to do that, you can go to DennisAnyone.net and find it there. The other thing you could do is become a subscriber to DNR Studios. I'm part of the group of shows under the Derek and Romaine banner. And for a monthly fee, you get my show early and you get all these other great gay shows. So check that out at dnrstudios.com. And now here is the interview with Greg O'Connor. Joining me now from Los Angeles, it's Greg O'Connor, composer, singer-songwriter. He's got a new album coming out called The Place I've Never Been, and he's been dropping singles and videos for a little while from that album. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Dennis. How's it going? Good to be here.
Good to see you. I was trying to think of how we first met. It would have been like 10 or something years ago. You worked on The Big Gay Sketch Show, which I was a writer on, right?
So I think the last season of that show, if I'm not mistaken, was 2008-9, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
So we met then, and then we re-met in 2014 when Randall Kleiser directed The Penis Chronicles and I was producing. And
I remember that. And it was sort of a play that was kind of a response to the Vagina Monologues in a way, like a twist on that in terms of subject matter. And it was...
I think as far as the title was, but
yeah.
I think that they tried to delve deeper into men. Were you in LA when that came out? Did you get to see that?
Yeah, I did. I saw it at the Coast Playhouse. Yeah.
Yes, the Playhouse. I loved that theater.
Yeah.
And it's right. I'm not sure what's going on with it. Every once in a while I see something going on there. I think the city bought it.
Yeah, I don't know. It needs to be something. It's right in the heart of it all. So you've had a long career scoring TV shows, movies, commercials, and writing songs for things like Big Gay Sketch Show and other things. But you decided in the last couple of years to become an artist yourself as a singer-songwriter. Talk about what went into that decision. Was that something you always wanted to do? Had you done it before? Or were you like, you know what, I want to express myself in this different way?
Good question. It's a multi-layered answer. I mean, basically, like for probably 20 some years, people said, oh, you should do a solo album. You should do it. Like I started singing on things because I worked on a lot of variety shows, Mad TV, Ben Stiller show, like Blue Collar TV, and our show. And like, sometimes they just didn't give you any time to do stuff. They would just like write something at the last minute and they'd be like, we need it tomorrow. And like, I didn't have time to get anybody to come in and sing it. So I would just do it.
Right.
And then I would be doing all these different voices, like, and I would do all the backgrounds and stuff. And then I just started thinking like I should do a solo album. But then I get into that place in my head where I don't know what style I should do, because you get into this, what I call,
who am I? Yeah, I've done all of these different styles. Who am I as an artist?
And genres, in my opinion, are like jail for creative people. It's like the corporate jail. That's what I think. I think that genres need to just go away and people should just do what they want.
That's
but
interesting.
now we're in this whole world of playlists where you have to just like decide what you are.
Right.
And so people are boxed in, so I just kind of like froze and I would just not do it, So then I've been in the work for hire business for so long. And then I just decided, like, a lot of self-reflection starts to happen, like, as you get older, and during COVID, I had a lot of changes in my life. Like, I went through a breakup, and then I went through some stuff with my mother being ill with dementia and just realizing life is short,
And if not now, when? And if not me, who? Like, that's it, right? You got to do it.
Yeah, and I just... I wanted to do something that was more contemplative, and then as soon as I got rid of that whole, like, what should I be, and marketing and gatekeepers, and as soon as I just let go of all that shit and just said, I'm just going to write some stuff and see what happens. And that's what happened. So the first song I wrote was this, my friend, Loki Rothman, who's a really talented singer-songwriter, composer who lives in South Africa. We met on Instagram in, I don't know how many years ago it was now, probably 7-8 years ago. And he came out to visit me to go to the NAMM show. It was the first NAMM show.
What's the NAMM show?
It's the National Association of Music Merchants. It's it's like CES for music nerds, basically.
All right, I love it.
Anything and everything for recording, audio, plugins, software, instruments, and they have it at the Anaheim Convention Center every year. So we went to that together. We went to a John Mayer concert, and we just did a writing marathon when he was here. And I wrote a song. The first single that I released was called "Ghosted." It was about this crazy lunatic that I met that ghosted me out of the blue. I didn't know what ghosting was because I had been in a long relationship before that, when I started to date again, I didn't even know what online dating was.
You didn't know the terminology.
Well, I didn't even know, like, hey, what's up, HBU? The whole thing is just like insane. It's like, it's so ridiculous and just toxic.
But so fulfilling, ultimately, so fulfilling. It's worth all the hassle. I'm joking.
Yeah, so I just thought, I need to like turn my experiences into something, I decided, and I don't want to be like self-indulgent and all, or anything like that. I kind of like just thought it would be good to take my experiences and turn them into art. But my only rule, so like if I liked a song that I had written with somebody, like I wrote a song called "Sleeping with the Enemy" with my friend Laurie. It's a really cool song, but it's about like a battered wife.
Right.
But, well, that never happened to me. So as much as I love this song, I don't want to like perform this and not feel like it's real to my experience.
Right.
So that was the only rule I made for myself. It didn't matter what genres, like if you've heard the record, I sent you the stuff. And there's some songs that are kind of Coldplay-ish, and some of them are Beach Boys, some of them are Beatles, some of them are, it's like all over the map, and I just kind of liked it that way. I just kind of, there's an indie artist named Blue that I really respect, BLE. Right. And he like is influenced by like Jeff Lynne from ELO, like, or Paul McCartney, anything Beatles, but then he'll put like an EDM song on the same record.
Yeah.
Or he'll put a country influence, kind of like almost if it's like the Eagles meets country, and he'll put that on the same record as something that sounds like ELO. And I love that because he just does what he wants. He's not trying to play by any kind of gatekeeper rules, So I thought that that's what I would do. And, I'm not a marketing genius. I'm just some guy that's doing this in myself,
Yeah.
and my buddies that I've had sessions with for years, and I got some really great people to play on the record, some really good friends that I've had long relationships with. And, these things it requires a team. It says you can't do this on your own. It's a lot, I mean, my fiance, Kevin, is a photographer. So any good photography that you saw on the liner notes has because he's a real photographer, and getting a great artist to do the liner notes, getting great engineers, and just, so it takes a lot. It's like running a corporation.
Yeah. What did it feel like to be the front person? To be like, if you're shooting a video, oh, the camera's on me. Like, how did it feel to step out from behind the scenes that way?
I'm not good at being in front like that. I have like stage fright and stuff. I'm kind of, you can see how I'm like, when I'm talking now. I'm not good at it. I'm a better behind the scenes person. I'm more comfortable behind the scenes. The way I was raised is like, children are to be seen and not heard. My grandmother.
So, because this does not feel like a vanity project when you listen to it or you look at the videos. It feels like a whole bunch of people coming together. When I looked at your liner notes, the pictures inside are the sessions and the players and the people. Exactly. And like, yes. I thought that was sort of beautiful. And I got the feeling that that's what it's about for you, is the creating with the other people.
I'm really glad that you saw that. That really means a lot because that was so important to me to get everyone in there. Like, and I even had my friend Michael Haddad, who wrote a bunch of the songs with me on there, to come back just to do a photo. Because I said, you're the only one that I don't have in the photos. Like, everybody's in the photos. I mean, Olivia, who did the liner notes, is amazing. She's not in the photos either. It's impossible to get everyone,
Right.
But I tried to get as many people as possible. So, I was very conscious at the video shoots is to like do a group shot of things, or get like a cameo with Lawrence Juber from, like the legendary guitarist. It was important to get all those people, like in there, because I share this whole record with all these people. I mean, it's everybody's contributing.
Here's what I think. I think that when you get to live your dream of being having an album, there's a part of you that wants all glamour shots of you, cool shots, or even the side of your head. We all daydream about having an album. And I did do that with mine. Like cool photos, and like you get to be a pop star, right? And you chose instead to have all these cool pictures of all the people that you worked with.
Because my whole model of these kind of albums, look at the liner notes for Toto 4.
Yeah.
Go Google it. Google the image of Toto 4 album liner notes.
Yeah.
See where I got the inspiration for the liner notes for this record, because that was one of my favorite records growing up. Toto 4. That was the one that won Album of the Year, Song of the Year, Producer of the Year.
What was the song that year? Was it Rosanna? Or was it Africa?
Probably Rosanna, but it could have been either one. But that's the album that's on Toto 4. And like, if you look at some of those type of records, or if you look at some of the, like, Chicago was always a faceless band.
Right. I couldn't pick Toto out of a lineup. I couldn't pick Chicago out of a lineup.
Kind of what, to me, I wanted it to be about the music.
Was it touching to you when you were reaching out and saying, hey, I'm going to do this thing on kind of as an artist, and I was wondering if you would be part of it? Like, what were the reactions of people when you asked them to collaborate with you, that you were going in this different direction?
Well, with Loki, we were always writing labor of love songs. So there was nothing different in that regard with him.
Right.
And Michael Haddad, my other collaborator on this thing, we met on Facebook because he was doing some Billy Joel Songs in the Attic stuff, and I thought, oh, he's like really like he's deep,
Yeah.
And so I reached out to him. Same thing with Loki. Like he reached out to me on Instagram and said, oh, I like your monitor setup. How do you get 3 monitors on your computer? Like some nerdy stuff.
I love that you found really positive things out of Instagram and Facebook, like really life-changing things.
Yeah. I mean, like, because I think that, there's a blessing and curse with all this.
Right.
People being raised inside this little thing. I'm not sure if there's long-term effects of too much information, as Dennis or Denzel Washington always says.
Yeah.
This may not be a good thing, but
I agree.
But I wouldn't have been able to do this album without the technology. Yeah. I had a little bit of practice because I produced and wrote some songs for the group Chicago, just the 2022 BMG release, and everything was done in COVID, during COVID. So we did everything online. Like, I did tracks here, and then I went to a studio to do the guitars, and then they did the horns in Sedona, Arizona, and then we did the vocals in Canada, and then it got all assembled, and I did a Pro Tool session with my friend Bob, delivered that, it was all kind of put together.
Right.
And so I had practice, and, we live in the world of DIY, doing all the shows that, you know what it's like.
Right.
And even back as far as when we were working, I was delivering all that stuff that way. We were just, I would do guitar sessions with my friend Blake in the Valley, or he would be like in Orange County. And I would get up in the morning and he would send me the guitar tracks. I'd import them in. The actors would come over and sing, like on Mad TV. That's how we did it.
Right.
So I've been doing the file changing thing well before COVID, well before people were doing it like regularly. The only thing you miss when you're not doing sessions all in the room together is you don't get the vibe of people playing off of one another in real time.
Yeah.
So I tried to get as much as that I tried to capture that as much as I could with sessions I did in Cape Town, South Africa. I went to visit Loki, and Kevin and I went there. And we went to a place called Sunset Recording in Cape Town. Right. Beautiful studio. Jurgen, shout out to Jurgen, who owns the studio, an engineer, great sounding room. If anybody ever wants to record in Cape Town,
that's the place to go. All right.
It sounds great.
Yeah.
And hooked me up with them. And we did the rhythm section parts for 3 of the songs there. And it really brought things to life. It kind of reminds me of like when the Beach Boys did Barbara Ann, and it sounds like it was done live. Like they're just kind of sitting there and it's sort of gritty and kind of
right. And there's those spoken ad libs, and there's something that they say and you're like, what are they saying? Like it did feel like they just recorded a rehearsal or something. Yeah.
So I love that kind of stuff. So there was things like that on there, and then there's songs like Home that are a lot more slick, like Toto, because I'm a huge. I loved all that arranged stuff. Like I grew up kind of in the 80s and 70s and 80s with that kind of rock.
Yeah,
and it was like Earth, Wind and Fire, Chicago, Toto, the Eagles, Steely Dan, all the any of that Foster stuff, like David Foster stuff, and I loved Brucein as a film composer. All the stuff was kind of slick, but it was like jazz guys that were classically trained.
Yeah. There's a newer video that dropped called Hard to Say Goodbye. And in the video, the band is playing with you. So did you record any of that live, or was everyone playing to the track?
That was all pre-recorded. That was pre-recorded. Like we just did the video that way.
Yeah.
They were playing track.
Well, I think it comes across great. And there was a video that you shot in a bar where you're like the bartender. Talk about the bar. Where was that? And that's for the video.
That was also
Bad Luck Love.
Both of those videos you're talking about, Bad Luck Love and Hard to Say Goodbye, were shot in Cape Town. Contentment is the name of the company. We shot both of those videos, those 2 videos you're talking about, on the same day.
You're kidding me. You shot 2 music videos in one day?
And Damien, Roy and Marguerite, the producers, and Damien, who was the editor director. Damien is just fast. They were really wonderful.
I'll share a story with you that you might relate to. I put out an album of music in 2000. And recently I was in a dance class. I started taking dance classes again. And the instructor played one of my songs during class. I didn't know he was going to do it. And I was just like, I'm going to be cool with this. It was actually kind of moving, and I'm not going to be weird about it. I'm just going to see what this is. And the thing that I was thinking about as we were stretching and it was playing is I remember the guy that mixed it. And I remember how cool he was and what a good job he did, and how I learned about, I learned that you could take a vocal, and if you mix it a certain way, it can sound better for this kind of song. And he had just worked with Melissa Etheridge, and I was really impressed with that. But he treated me like I was just like any of the big stars he works with. My point is, what I remembered was the person and how cool he was, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I saw all the pictures of your collaborators, I thought that's really cool, because I think that's what you're going to remember, the experience.
What style of music was your stuff?
It was sort of like singer-songwriter pop. It wasn't super edgy. It was kind of ballads. There was more ballads than not. But what I remember is the experience. I remember the people, and like bringing my friend in to play cello on this one song, or, that's what moves me when I think about it.
Yeah. And I think, that's, and the important thing about that is bringing in the people that you feel safe with, and you feel like you can be the best version of yourself when you're with them, and they can be the best version of themselves when they're with you. When I'm writing this like vulnerable stuff, I have to like sort of open up a lot of my baggage and all my shit to people.
And your first song, which you mentioned, Ghosted, like you'd had this bad experience in the dating world, and you put it into this song. What was it like to express yourself in that way, and then make the video and sort of open yourself up in that way?
The ghosting thing, like, just, if we really want to get into psychology, I won't get too deep into this shit, but I started learning.
I think a lot of people can relate to it,
Yeah, I just started learning more about like attachment theory. I was like, why am I attracting people with an avoidant attachment disorder? I had this like sort of track record of meeting people that had this sort of avoidant personality, and like avoidant people usually attract anxious people and vice versa. And it's based on trauma bonding. And then you have to go back and dig deep into your childhood to like figure out what's that from.
Wow.
You know? So the song really was just like a therapeutic way of just sort of expressing that experience and making it into art. You know, the full circle moment of the whole thing is that my fiance, Kevin Sikorsky, who's an amazing photographer, he directed the video.
Right. And how you must have met him somewhere between Ghosted and some of these other songs, because there's a love story in these songs.
Yeah, I met him like actually not too much longer. It was February when that happened to me. And then I met him in July, the following July. So, you know, and I had sort of like was like happily single. And I'm like, you know, I'm not. And you know, when you date and you start to realize, okay, there's that thing again. There's that pattern. There's that person. I just kept saying, no. Like, I don't, you know, I'd rather be by myself. I'm like happy. I'm not a person who needs to be with somebody, you know.
Right.
I can go to a restaurant by myself and have dinner and be happy.
Yeah.
You know?
I might do that after this interview, actually. Where did you meet Kevin?
We met on Hinge. You know,
right, like, on Hinge. Yeah. That's where Buttigieg and Chastain met. Yeah. All right.
Oh, that's okay. I didn't know.
That's where Pete met Chastain, on Hinge. It was like his first swipe or his first thumbs up or whatever. Yeah. So, yeah. So you guys met on Hinge, and he's based in LA as well?
He's based in LA as well. He was living in Miami, and he had just moved here. So it was sort of like one of those things, like, you know, and you know, it's really funny when that whole ghosting thing happened to me. He was coming here back and forth for work a lot. So, yeah, I mean, and so we met and we went to our first date, and had a 3-hour dinner, and the rest is history. You know, you kind of know. And then I was dating 7 other people, you know, just you're having fun and you're single. Right. And I was just like, this is all like, you know, I didn't ghost anybody though. I just said, you know, I met somebody, you know, like if anybody reached out, I was not a ghoster.
The video for To Be With You is you. It features a lot of footage of you and Kevin having adventures. Was that song written about him, or had you written it before and then he came along?
Yeah, I had actually, well, it's really strange. Another thing about, you know, again, because all these songs are based on things that actually happened to me in real life. Every single line of Ghosted actually happened to me. Right. Like actual lines of the song actually have.
Right. He says like the last thing he said to you was, "I'll see you."
Parking lot of his apartment was, "I'll see you late. I'll see you tomorrow." That's what the last thing he said. That's actually, and so the ghoster, when he was love bombing, because usually they love bomb before, we were sitting in a restaurant in Beverly Hills, and he said, my friends wanted me to go out with them, but I said, what's the point? All I want to do is be with you. Right, and that's the theme of the To Be With You song, which is now the video. I basically like took that, and they say that I should go out with your friends, but you know,
like, hold on, I need to write this down.
Well, Michael Haddon, who's brilliant, I just told him the story. He's like jotting it down, and he made it into like an amazing lyric.
Did the ghoster ever resurface in any way? Does he know there's a song in a video?
Yeah. No. And the thing, no one will ever know who it is, and it doesn't matter now. And so, like, it's actually, it was a blessing. Yeah, you know,
it worked out.
Yeah, I mean, but also I think that like the universe, like when you say no to like to patterns, and you say no to things that are just not healthy for you. Yeah. Is room for the right things to happen. You know, it's like, that's why I mean, this album, you know, has like, I've rekindled some relationships with some session guys that I hadn't talked to in a long time. And, you know, it just, I feel like the right projects come along when you're doing this. Like, I love the documentary I did with Randall. Yeah. And I love, like, you know, that I have this movie coming out in October on all the streaming platforms about.
What's it called?
It's called My Home Unknown.
And you did the score for it?
Score and the songs. Yeah.
Nice.
And it's like, you know, it's a real story about this woman. They shot this during the pandemic, like in the middle of the pandemic. They just like were scrappy, like this Gaz Canley and Diane Foster, these amazing producing directing team. It's about this homeless woman who like was an artist who was schizophrenic and who was living on the streets. But it shows like a real time, like how it is to like live like that in real time.
Right. You know, when you're watching movies with scores, the scores are meant to enhance the emotion and all of that. Do you ever find yourself really moved when you're composing something for a movie like you're talking about now? Do you feel it, or is it just work, or do you sort of go on that emotional journey a little bit?
Wow, that's a good question. You're a good interviewer. Jesus.
Oh, thank you. That's why I bring in the big bucks.
Yeah, no, because I just took a journey in my head when you were asking that question.
Well, you're describing a very emotional thing, but I'm wondering if you're writing the music to go under one of these scenes, how emotional does that experience feel?
There's one scene in the movie where she's trying to push this guy away, and it's like that scene gets me every time.
Yeah.
I think there are moments when it's not, even for emotional things, it could be emotional, and even for comedy things, like there was times on Mad TV where there'll be a really funny thing happening, and I can hear like off camera one of the producers cackling in the background, and I just start like dying laughing, like
yeah.
You have those aha moments where you have a little gratitude and say, we bitch and complain like, they didn't give us enough time, or they changed the script without telling me, and blah, blah, blah. Right. But we're not like working for Roto-Rooter,
right.
We're like we're creating art, It's like,
yeah. And it's a thing. It's a thing. You mentioned the documentary by Randall Kleiser. You described it to me before we started recording. So just say a little bit about it, because I think it sounds fascinating. Yeah,
so Randall directed Grease and Blue Lagoon and Honey, I Blew Up the Kid, White Fang, Flight of the Navigator. Big, great director. He's always been really creative. He came up with this idea in 1964 to chronicle probably around 20 people. I don't know exactly how many. Every 10 years, from senior in high school for 50 years, every 10 years at their high school reunion. So he chronicled their lives for 50 years. And so, like, one's like, oh, I love my wife, she's amazing. And then you cut to like 20 years later, that bitch took all my money.
Right. So it's
or it'll be like, how did the Kennedy assassination? How did civil rights?
Right.
How did Vietnam? How did all these like events that happened in the 60s, which was a huge shift in culture, how did all that stuff shape these people's decision making over a 50-year period?
Yeah. What's the name of the documentary?
Called A Baby Boomer Yearbook.
A Baby Boomer Yearbook. It reminds me of those 7-Up movies.
It's and he says that in his on the website, babyboomeryearbook.com, you can see the trailer.
Yeah.
It's on iTunes. Like,
all right.
I'm
going to check it out. I think it sounds really interesting. You talk about your fiance being a photographer. He shot the cover for your art, for your album. Is that right? The album cover is so brilliant. Yeah. Go ahead. You describe it. It's going to be part of the art for this podcast, but you're on a mountain somewhere.
So I'm a huge animal rights person, an animal lover.
Right.
I'm like, and so is Kevin. In fact, the first opening line that Kevin and I said on Hinge to each other was like, those deal breaker questions they put on there?
Yeah.
His was deal breaker if you don't like dogs. And I thought, oh, that's cool. And he's cute. So I wrote agreed. And that was how
that you were off to the races.
Yeah. So, I have always had this vision that one day I was going to own a studio called Barnyard Studios, where I have a farm sanctuary and like a recording studio on a premises where a portion of the proceeds from the studio goes to fund these rescued animals.
Wow.
And I wanted to have like a kitchen. My friend Rocco Russo, this doctor that I met when I was years ago, who now lives in Connecticut, he's a brilliant guy. He came up with this idea called the Kitch Inn, KITCHINN.
I like it.
Where a grumpy old grandmother's making like fucking casseroles and stuff. And then like when it's gone, and everybody like fights to get the last one,
I like it.
Like I always wanted to have the Kitch Inn on the premises,
Nice.
Like you eat out of jelly jars and, so that was kind of like the idea. I wanted to do this thing where I'm with cows, with an old upright piano. I had to find that upright piano. I found it on Craigslist for free, in Moore Park. And we got 2 PAs to like ship the piano to this to this location. It's a shoot location. Kevin with his brilliance, he was able to put it together. And there was a guy, a farmhand there and like who helped with wrangle the animals. And they took like a dumpster thing and put the piano on this thing to lift it up and bring it to the location. I didn't have to like take the piano out of there. They just kept it. We said keep it, like so then they can use it as a prop for their location.
Well,
so it was win, you know.
It's a win-win. It's you in this mountain lush background, an old spinet beat up piano, and a bull right by you. But that bull got was close to you.
Who he was, and I was kind of getting like, as he kept
his horn.
They're strong, and even though they're being sweet, there's more than one. There's like there were two of them, but that was the best shot we got. You know, it's hard to wrangle them. You know,
10 out of 10, no notes. That album cover is fucking great.
And Kevin's great, and he made me look 12, even though I'm 100. So that was always helpful. You know? Was
there ever a part of you that thought, oh, I'm too old to be doing this? Because I think about that a fair amount in my life. Do I still have time to do this thing, or is that too ambitious? Or, you know, like I said, I've been dancing recently, and like, what does it mean to be the age that I am? And I'm just going to keep trying to do stuff, I guess. I don't know.
I go through that all the time, especially I'm 57. So, you know, I don't hide it. You know, I'm 57.
I turned 60 this year.
Oh, good. Yeah. You look, you don't look 60 at all. See, no one in California, everyone looks younger here.
It's so funny because I was recently, this past week, me and some friends spent a week in Palm Springs, and one of my friends is a makeup artist named Brett, and he, every once in a while, he'll have an idea for a crazy photo shoot. And this time it was My Little Pony. So he was like, these are the wigs you're all going to be wearing, so find some shirt on Amazon, and I'm going to do your makeup. And there's like 5 guys in their 50s, or you know, doing this photo shoot. And after it was over,
which pony were you?
I was pink. And I think I have a catchphrase that I have to lay down on audio at some point. It's a work in progress. But
a little pony, like
I'm not sure. I'm not a fan of that. I don't know the universe or the canon. But after it was over, my friend Danny goes, you know, when my parents were in their 50s and 60s, I don't think they did stuff like this. Like, you know what I mean? They were like, when you think of your parents being middle-aged, like the age I am, like being in a creative world, that wasn't their journey at all. So it's a little weird to think about. Yeah.
Our chronological age and our physical age don't ever have to be the same thing. Also, you know, like, I don't remember where I saw this statistic before, but in 1904, the average lifespan was 42.
Yeah.
Number one cause of death at that time was the flu.
Yeah.
So like, people are living longer. That's one thing.
Yeah.
But secondly, like, when I watched my mother die of dementia, like I actually was there when she actually died. Like I've never seen a human die, and then I watched her die. So like, it's just like, and then you're like, well, you know, like how much more time we all want more time. Everybody wants more time. But like, for the remaining amount of time I have, is it 40 years? Is it 50 years? Is it 20 years? What is it? Am I going to get hit by a bus tomorrow? And if I figure too much stuff out, will God say, oh, you know too much now, and now it's time for you to go? You know?
Yeah.
So maybe I want to become horrible and sabotage everything so that I could stay longer. You know, I don't know. You could think about these things to death, but like, and I always joke about my age, and like, and sometimes I wake up and I go, ew, where's that spot? Where did that come from?
Right.
You know? It happens. But like, I mean, just because we're old doesn't mean we can't enjoy our lives. Like, fuck that. You know what I mean? Like, the thing is, I'd rather have the wisdom I have now. You know, like if I was a kind of a stupid kid, like if I thought about, I mean, Kevin, my fiance, is much younger than me, and it's like, and he doesn't really care about the age thing. It's more like in my head than it is to hit. It's like I go through all these things because we live in an ageist, you know, entertainment is an ageist business.
Yeah. You know? I thought about this recently, which is that like, as I was getting older and hitting these years, I thought, well, I'm going to be different. I'm going to be relevant. I'm going to stay active. I'm not going to sit on the couch. I'm going to get out and do things and mix it up and all this stuff. And then I realized, oh, you don't really get a vote. Like the culture moves on sort of without you. The phone doesn't really ring. It's nothing personal. It's just the way things go. So you have to generate.
Yeah, but that's what I was going to say.
You have to do it. Like,
but you are the culture, though. Like we are the culture. Like we decide what the culture. Like I'm not going to live reactively.
Yeah.
I'm going to live proactively. I'm not going to react to whatever culture there is. It's like we are the culture. Like if you want to dance, like obviously you're going to live long because you're doing that. Like there's a guy who goes to my gym who's 86.
Yeah.
He can do more pull-ups and sit-ups than I can do. Like he does 3 sets, 20 of that thing when you're on the bar and you're doing. When you're hanging like this, but then you're also doing the pull-up and the sit-up at the same time. He can do sets of 20 of those, and he's 86.
Wow.
He's like this guy that I knew that did, like he did movies with John Wayne back in the day. Like he's this like really cool guy. But it's like inspiration, and he's a stud. Like this guy's body is like fucking insane. Like he looks like he's 60.
Amazing. Well,
crazy.
and I also feel like the risk of doing it, or like, oh, what will people think of it? Or like, I don't care about that stuff. I just want to do it. Like, there's a feeling that comes through in some of what you're doing that's you're doing it for the sake of doing it. Like, there's a joy that comes through. It doesn't look like it's targeted to get any specific result. There's just a art for the sake of it in a way.
That's kind of what it is. And the thing is, that's why we're not gatekeepers' best friends when we do that, because we're not making somebody money. You know, it's like, I'm doing this because I love it. If I can make money on licenses, or if I can make money doing it, that's icing. Yeah. I did this. The reward is I wanted to make sure that it was all good, or like at least it was up to my standard. Like I wanted to do a real album, not an EP. I want to do like an old school album, and not even anymore, but I want to do an album with at least 10 cuts. Yeah. With liner notes. With
and it
credits.
Takes you on a journey.
Takes you on that journey like we grew up with. Like when every Thursday you'd be like, what's going to be at Tower Records?
I remember thinking about the sequence of the songs, you know, when I put out my record. It changes a million times, right? And you're like, you know, it's important, but it's a lost art with the EPs of it all. You mentioned working on Mad TV. You won an Emmy for Mad TV, and for writing a song for it. And I went and looked it up. It stars somebody that's in the Mismatch Game now, Nicole Parker. Nicole Parker does the Mismatch Game show, and she is this featured singer in your Emmy-winning song. Am I getting that right? Is that the right person?
That's her. Yeah. He was a huge contributor to the win. Yeah. Because it was great, you know. She also, because right after that, after Mad got canceled, like about 3 years after that, she ended up starring on Wicked on Broadway. Yeah. Yeah.
And she just did Titanic. But the song...
Great.
The song that the Emmy-winning song... Tell me about that again. It's something wonderful.
A Wonderfully Normal Day. Jim Wise, the lyricist, came up with the concept. So hats off to him. I mean, it was an amazing idea for a character, Disney girl who's a hooker. You know?
Yeah, and you don't find out until the end, but she's just like in Hollywood on the street, but everything's optimistic and sunny, and the vocal's great. You did a lot on Matt TV, and you worked with people like Daniel Gaither and Key and Peele. I watched the clips, and I'm like, oh, I know that person. Oh, they're famous now. What was that time like?
It was a blast, that show. You know, you never knew what you were going to get from week to week. One week it was some John Williams crazy thing, and then the next week it would be some edgy Trent Reznor thing or Rolling Stones that you just didn't know what it was going to be.
You did like a 50 Cent parody.
I did that with Jordan. I wrote that.
Yeah.
You know, and that was great. Those kind of shows, like back, because that's how I started my career. There was a show called The Sunday Comics that was shot at the Palace Theater back in 1991, I think it was, which led to the Ben Stiller Show, which led to Mad, and it sort of like came off of that. Those genres of those shows where they would do like Dances with Wolves and Dirty Dancing. It was Dirty Dances with Wolves, you know?
Right.
And a lot of those shows for me, because I had just come out of the film scoring program at USC, and I was new. I didn't know anything at all. I didn't know what the fuck to do. I was like, I got this gig. My friend Jeff Wunderlich got me on the Sunday Comics, and then I had no idea like what I was doing. I just bullshitted my way through it. And the first cue I wrote, I got $150 to write my first cue. I was like, I'm on the air, you know.
Right,
like,
for something that aired on television, $150.
And I was like, I'm on TV, you know. Yeah. It was on, and so like, those shows were a masterclass because you had to like learn all these different genres. Yeah. So I did not know how to write all these genres like perfectly, but like it made you study this shit because you had to like be like, how did they do this? And you had to dissect a lot of stuff, you know. So I like the element of surprise that came each week when a script came. Like you guys did it. You would write these scripts. I didn't know what you guys were going to give me every week, you know. So that was the fun of it, you know. Different type of scoring than doing long form drama.
Yeah, which, for sure.
You know, that's more dialogue driven as opposed to cut driven.
Yeah. When you're a composer for film and television, do you deal with typecasting as well? Or is like, oh, that's the sketch comedy guy. We can't We can't have him do, you know, Crimes of the Heart or whatever.
I had to fight that tooth and nail.
How do you fight it?
I ended up doing 11 sketch comedy shows.
Yeah.
11 of them. You know, and so then like at the same time I was doing Mad and then this hidden camera show called the Jamie Kennedy Experiment for the same guys who created Mad, I was doing a cop drama for ABC, and luckily I was able to break that barrier and do that. So like the people that are going to typecast you are always going to think of you as that. But then I have a separate group of people over here that I'm doing this for. So when I did Randall's Defrost, like his virtual reality drama about this cryogenically frozen woman,
right?
Who was, that was like a very sound design driven score, like completely different than anything I would do on a comedy show.
Right.
So like I purposely like, if you're going to think whatever you're going to think, I have no control over the gatekeeper who's going to say like, oh, that's the guy that does Endust.
Right.
We need somebody Windex. I mean,
right.
If they're going to be that way, God bless them. You know what I mean? And I can only like show that I can do all these things. It's our job, like an actor. It's called acting, right?
Creative careers go through ups and downs, right? What kind of got you through your downs? What's kind of saw you through these journeys? Well,
sometimes I don't even know what's going to see me through them. I mean, I have them all the time. Like if you looked at my bio, like my resume that's on my website, like it's for every thing that you would think of as a success, I could tell you like a shitty political story that was attached to that gig, the hell I got that gig, or some bullshit person that was something sleazy or something. Or like for every one of those, there's 99 failures. Like I've gotten rejected more, like for every one thing that I've gotten, you consider a little victory.
Yeah.
So like, because I remember somebody put this in a tweet once and I thought, God, this is really smart. He said like success, a lot of times people think success is a big break and it's really not. It's a bunch of little victories. And then you paste all the little victories together into a bio and that becomes your legacy.
Wow. All right. I like
that.
What
I'm saying? It's kind of like, it's like a little thing. Oh, I got a song in this movie.
Yeah.
Like in some little movie, I made $5 on the song, but the movie did really well. So people think I'm big shit because I get this song or whatever. And then you'll do something that you get paid a shitload and then nobody sees it. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then you can't get arrested. And then you get something and it's like, none of it makes any sense. So it's like, at some point in your life, you just get tired of that your emotional roller coaster being dependent on that.
Yeah. And so you have to you have to change the way you approach things. That's certainly been my experience.
Yeah.
But I love that you're having this sort of creative renaissance at this point in your life by doing something personal that's just yours.
I feel like as artists right now, we don't have a choice because there are 147,000 songs that get released every single day.
Oh, wow.
147,000 songs a day.
Yeah.
So how do you gain separation?
Yeah.
I reach out to people like you to talk about my album. I'm just doing this myself.
Yeah.
So like, I don't have any control over the outcome.
What surprised you about it? The whole journey of it?
What I can reiterate, what I had a feeling before, is I hate marketing and advertising. I hate that sort of, like, I had a meeting with this really great guy. He was talking to me about, getting my social media numbers up. My Instagram's got a decent following, but like with some of these things, I'm not going to sit on my phone all day and what they call engage. I have a life. I'm going to sit and fucking do that all day long. And I don't want to pay you $3,000 to $5,000 a month to do it because you're not going to do it as well as I do it.
Yeah. No, it's a thing.
And the thing is, are they really real followers? Are they bots? Or like, what am I getting for the money?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What are you going to get me? A mention in something, and then on the 30th of the month when I re-up the contract, then you'll get me another mention. It's like I know that game. I'd rather put the money into the songs.
Yeah, into the
instead of giving $1,000 to that, I'd rather spend it on the string section that I recorded in my living room.
Yeah. What have the reactions been like since you started putting out the music? Are there any that have really moved you? Have you heard from people, strangers, or people you know about it? Yeah,
I mean, I've gotten a mostly positive reaction. Like I think that I only got one weird negative comment on the on the "To Be With You" video because it was some homophobe.
Oh, interesting. That means you're doing something right.
Yeah, he went meh or something like weird, and that was the only negative thing I've ever seen. And I just
meh is not bad.
It's like I live in the world of taking notes from people,
right?
So I'm okay, and I'm okay with that. I'm a team player. Like we've been in that. We've all been in the cast and crew world forever,
right?
But when I'm doing this, the thing that was difficult about this was that the decisions were mine. So then I had to go, I have to decide whether this vocal's good. Like there's one song on the record that I did. It's kind of like an Elton John kind of thing. It's the last song on the thing. It's called "The Story Starting Here,"
right?
And I had time singing that song because I don't have like a very edgy voice. I didn't want to sound like a theater queen. I don't want to sound like a jingle singer trying to be an artist, because there's a difference between that kind of pristine, overly thought out jingle sounding vocalist and an artist. So like I sang that song over 9 times. I just kept approaching it in a different way. And then I was like, I'm singing it too hard. Now it sounds like I'm acting. It sounds like I'm over.
It sounds like I'm trying. I remember when I was recording my record feeling the same thing. Like I didn't have an edge. Like I wasn't Bono. And I didn't think my voice was special. I thought it was serviceable. And when I went back and listened to it, I think it's special now, which is a bit surprising.
Is it because you're objective?
At the time, I didn't. I thought it was worth doing. I wanted to express it. I wanted to have the experience. It was a project that I wanted to see through. But deep down, I didn't think that I had a special voice. And when I listen now, I do. Not on every song, not on every moment. But yeah, I do.
The subject matter of the songs, were they based on experiences?
Yeah,
or were they
for sure. They were very personal. There was I felt like it connected emotionally, and there was a warmth to the tone. And
you play an instrument too?
A piano. Yeah. But I went back and I remember feeling that feeling of like, oh, my voice isn't special enough. So I relate to that thing of like, I'm going to have to sing this a bunch of times or come up with a...
Oh, it's like you have to offset. Like it's like, because if the song is very like esoteric or maybe even sappy or cerebral or something, or very pretty, then like Billy Joel gets away with that because he's got an edgy voice. He's like, it's like, dude from New York, and he's like, and he can just like do that. He can be like that. And I'm like this Irish Catholic boy from fucking Villanova, Pennsylvania, who's too squeaky clean. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, I was trying to be, but then I'm trying to be somebody I'm not. So then I decided I was just going to be like softer. I was going to like flip the script on it. Instead of trying to be Billy Joel, I'm just going to be, what would my take on that be? Like the song "Call It," and Loki gets most of the credit for that track because he did most of that track in his studio. We started it here in my place, but like that vocal I recorded in South Africa in his room. Right. All the other here, but that vocal, I didn't think I was going to be able to sing that song.
You just didn't think it was in your.
Well, it's a rock. It's like it's like, and I'm not that at all.
Yeah.
He like got me to do that. Like he got that out of me, and I'm not. I don't think that I could have done that vocal alone.
When did you fall in love with music?
Probably when I was 4, probably 3 or 4. My dad bought a piano for my mother for one of their anniversaries, and I started playing by ear, and I would just like sit noodle on the piano, and I learned how to play Raindrops, but I played all the wrong chord changes. Funny thing is,
Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head,
and I met Burt Bacharach one time, and I had a dinner. Like my friend Lou Spisto, who used to run the Old Globe in San Diego, they had a dinner for him when he was moving on and do some stuff in New York. And Burt Bacharach was the guest of honor that day, so I got to sit with Burt Bacharach for an hour and just pick his brain. And I told him the first song I ever learned was Raindrops. And I said, but I played all the wrong chord changes. And he's like, well, he goes, well, how are you now?
That's funny. But you remember playing that song, loving that song, and like trying to create it.
Yeah, my mother knew I was a little different when I was listening to that instead of, Tom Petty or whatever.
When would you say you came out? What was that journey like for you?
That happened in stages. I think that it started probably in my 20s. Well, I mean, it started like the end of college,
right?
And then like if you're 60, you remember when we would wait in line at the Motherlode, and you'd think that somebody that you knew was going to drive by, and you'd be like, oh, I'm in line at the beer bus on a Sunday. Like it was just like a different thing than people experience today, where there's so many outlets and there's so many people coming out of the closet on YouTube, and there's more role models, and there's more time has gone by.
Wow, I love that image of you standing outside the Motherlode, wondering if somebody that you know is going to see you.
Oh yeah, I was at USC, like closeted.
But you're also very athletic. You probably could cultivate a totally different image if you wanted to. Were you in the arts all the time? My undergrad was at Notre Dame, so it was pretty conservative. Right.
But it was I loved my college experience. The only thing that I wish is that I could have dated and had like that. That was all hidden, Right. So I had a great, just the tailgate, and Notre Dame won the national championship in football, like my senior year. And like, it was just like, we had a great party house, and I had great friends. But, you know, I'd go to all the proms and the dates and things like that, but I never really like did anything with anybody. It was all like friends, you know. It was hard too. Like if somebody liked you, because I was also in bands, and if a girl liked you, then you had to sort of like, what do I call it? Diffuse, deflect, defer.
Right.
Yeah, you get good at that after a period of time. So it's probably a lot more internally stressful than we realize that took a toll on us. Like there is some post-traumatic stress that probably resulted from that, and the way we behave and the way we react to certain things and people, it shapes a lot of things. Because I don't think that stuff ever fully goes away. I think it's just it's sort of part of you.
Yeah,
you know.
Like so I look at people that are out in college, like out through their high school year. I'm just like, wow, what would that have been like? The whole landscape would have been different, right?
I talk to Kevin about that all the time because his parents are like amazing. My parents are great now. It took a while, you know.
Yeah.
And like it was a different generation, you know. People just are afraid of what they don't understand. And Kevin's parents, like he's been out, you know, for a long time. So like he didn't have it the way we had it. But every 30 years it's different. I mean, think about the people that were behind us. The people that grew up in going to this secret speakeasies in the 50s and had to use a password, and cops would, you know, all those people that, you know, the Stonewall people that, you know, fought so that we could hold people's hands and, you know, and act like we're the shit, and, you know, at some gay benefit and act all with swagger and all that kind of shit. We're doing all that off the heels of all these people who suffer.
So we can serve it. We can serve it up. I'm looking at my notes, and before we wrap it up, there's one gay thing that you worked on that I love, the Laura Dern moment at the Independent Spirit Awards, where I don't even remember the setup, but I remember thinking it was so niche and so inspired. Remind us what that was. Jordan
Firstman is a well-known comedian.
Yeah.
And he's got a big following on Instagram. His following took off a lot, especially during COVID too. He's a really great comedian and funny guy. He came up with this concept, and my friend Lou Spisto, who runs the Gay Men's Chorus of Los Angeles, kind of hooked us up. We wrote this song. I didn't understand the song when I first got it because it's not symmetrical. It's not written in song form. It's kind of very conversational.
Right. Well, the joke was what was the joke? I just remember it had to do with Laura Dern, and the Gay Men's Chorus kept singing her name.
Yeah, it was a whole like thing about like the gay things that are in the thing, and then they kept talking about Laura Dern eating a kale salad and Laura Dern doing this and Laura Dern doing that. It was all about Laura Dern,
right?
And it just turned gradually all being about her.
Right.
When we got it, we were worried that she wasn't going to be sitting in her seat.
Oh, that's a worry.
Shit, that would have been like bad. Like so we were kind of like, you know, because this is all live,
right?
This is live. So like I created a track that they played back, and then they had a click, and then they conducted the Gay Men's Chorus to my track because it breaks out into this kind of gospel thing.
Yeah.
Like that.
Well, she played along great. It was just a memorable moment. And tell people how they can learn more about you and your music.
My website's gregoconnor.com. If you go to the news section, you'll see all the videos on there. There's just the links directly to the YouTube. My YouTube's Greg O'Connor. Instagram's Greg_O'Connor. What is my Instagram? It's Greg_O'Connor.
Here's my final question. What have you learned about creativity or life from embarking on this big project at this point in your life?
What I learned is that the creative process keeps evolving and it never ends. Like now I want to do a different type of album. I want to do one that's maybe orchestral. And then I want another one that's more anger based, like that's more like I want to challenge myself to do other genres. Like I might want to do an instrumental album too.
Right. So it's like the more you do, the more you want to do.
The more you want to do, the more you need to do. It's almost like, you know, because I feel like I found something that's sort of part of my center. You know, like this is sort of something that I have to continue doing, even if the work for hire stuff, you know, through that, it's like I never gave myself permission to do this.
Right, that's the thing.
Hired stuff, and Kevin's really great at that. When he does a photo project, he'll shoot something in a junkyard, or he'll shoot like something like in a horror thing, or he'll just decide he's going to do this concept, and he'll find someone to fund it. He'll like find some brand to fund. He's like really amazing at that, and like he does that to keep himself sane. Right. You know, it's like events and how many concerts, how many, you know, like press things or whatever. And so like he's like, I'm doing something for me. I'll do 5 for them, 1 for me. So that's what I'm learning. That's probably the biggest takeaways. every creative person needs to do these things to keep yourself fresh.
Yeah.
You know, because you learn something new and then your style doesn't get stale because like, you know, you could keep doing the same thing that's in your comfort zone. But I say, you know, stay true to who you are. I'm not saying like just go out unrealistically. Like if you don't feel like it's you, then you don't want to do that. But there are ways to veer off of your safe space, you know?
Right. And the things I think that you were afraid of, they kind of get overshadowed by the joy and the passion that you feel when you're doing it.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Greg. This has been really fun.
That's great.
Thanks again to Greg O'Connor. Watch for his album, The Place I've Never Been, when it comes out in October. And a number of his songs and videos are already available on all the streaming platforms. And I love his music. All right. So this happened. I just got back from a trip to Palm Springs for a week with some friends. Mostly it was a vacation, but we did do the mismatch game out there on the 3rd of August. And when I went to, you know, talk to the club owner at Oscars about doing the mismatch game out there during the summer, he was like, well, the summer, not a lot of folks are here, but let's give it a try. So we decided to give it a try. And a few days before, we almost pulled the plug because we hadn't sold that many tickets, to be honest. And we pushed through with it, and we ended up getting a decent audience, and we had a great time. So I'm really glad that happened. We had one of our actors lost his voice, so we had 5 performers instead of 6, but it worked out. And it was one of those lessons in, like, just keep saying yes, just keep trying, like just keep trying to push it forward. And it came together, and I think everyone that was there, everyone that took part, had a really good time. So if you happen to be one of those people, thank you for coming out and supporting. We love doing the show. And I think if I hadn't done the show, the trip would have had a little bit of a about that part of it. So it was a win. It was a nail biter and a white knuckler, but it worked out. So there you go. All right, that's enough for this week. I want to give a shout out to Oscar Rosario for mixing the episodes. My theme music is by Mark Daniels for Replacement Music. We'll catch you next time on Dennis Anyone. Bye.